The Forgotten Earth. The galaxy had long believed Earth was nothing more than a scar, a broken world left behind after the flames of old wars. Alien historians recorded it as a dead planet, unfit for life, stripped of its oceans, its skies poisoned and its people erased. To them, Earth was a warning, a tale told to young cadets of the dangers of uncontrolled ambition. But the truth was different. The truth was hidden. Far beyond the edge of known space, humanity had survived. They had left their home when the skies burned and the seas boiled. Ships carrying millions scattered into the void, searching for safety, searching for a chance to endure. Generations passed, and while alien empires grew fat and arrogant, humanity sharpened itself in exile. They became wanderers, fighters, engineers, dreamers of vengeance. Every child was taught the history of Earth. Every elder whispered the same words: "One day, we will return." And now that day had come. Over the gray ruins of Earth's orbit, space shimmered. A tear split reality itself, and through it emerged ships unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They were not clumsy machines of rivets and steel. They were silent giants of black metal, sharp like blades, glowing with lines of white energy. They moved with the grace of predators. Alien patrols stationed around Earth saw them first. Small cruisers built by the Galactic Council. Their commanders laughed at the first sight. Old myths, they said. Nothing to fear. Then the human flagship spoke. A voice, deep and calm, rolled across every frequency. "This is Earth Command. We are home." The patrol ships aimed their weapons. Beams of plasma arced through the void. But when the fire touched the human ships, it vanished as if swallowed by the air itself. Alien eyes widened, fear clutching their throats. The human flagship responded with a single flash of light, and the patrol ships disappeared, not destroyed with fire or explosion, but simply erased, as if they had never existed. The message was clear. Earth was no longer weak. On the planet's surface, alien settlers watched the skies in silence. For years they had lived on the ashes of human cities, building markets where human monuments once stood, digging their mines into the bones of ancient mountains. Now the ground trembled as human ships descended. A shadow passed over the ruins of New York. A ship larger than the mountains above it touched the clouds. The settlers ran. Some dropped to their knees, whispering prayers to gods long forgotten. Others screamed that the legends were true. Humanity had returned. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic spread. Dozens of alien rulers argued in fear. "It cannot be humans," some shouted. "They were extinct." Others insisted, but the recordings showed the truth. A fleet of power beyond calculation now stood over the one planet no one had ever truly claimed. Earth was alive again, and the humans were not asking for permission. Across the galaxy, whispers spread like wildfire. On mining colonies, oppressed species lifted their heads. If humans could return, maybe hope was not dead. On prison worlds, rebels pressed their ears to radios, listening for the voice of Earth Command. On forgotten moons, slaves dreamed of freedom again. The galaxy felt a storm rising, and at the center of it was a single, undeniable fact. Humanity had returned to Earth, and nothing would stand in their way. The sky over Earth burned with fire as the human fleet lowered its banners, black and white with the emblem of a rising star. Generations of waiting had ended. The forgotten children of Earth had come home, and they carried with them the fury of centuries. The galaxy was about to learn that the dead world they mocked had not died at all. It had been waiting, patient and silent, preparing for this very moment. The age of humanity had begun. Echoes of power. 800 words. The galaxy did not sleep that night. Every news channel, every comms frequency, every whisper in every alien marketplace spoke of the same thing. Earth, the lost world. had risen again, and the ones who once called it home were stronger than anything seen before. The Galactic Council sent fleets. Thousands of ships left their docks, engines blazing with the urgency of fear. They told themselves that humans were still fragile, that this was a bluff, that strength was an illusion. But deep inside, even the most arrogant admiral trembled. When the first wave of alien ships reached Earth's orbit, the humans were waiting. Their fleet floated in silence, dark and cold like shadows carved into the void. Only their eyes, glowing white lenses across their hulls, watched the incoming armada. The alien admiral raised his claw and ordered the attack. A storm of plasma, missiles, and beams of light filled the skies. It was fire enough to erase a world. Yet when it struck, it bent, folded, and vanished against invisible shields that shimmered like glass. Not one human ship fell. Then the humans moved. With no warning, their fleet advanced. Their ships bent space as they passed, vanishing from one point and appearing in another, faster than sight, faster than sound. Alien captains screamed orders, their crews scrambled, but it was like fighting shadows. One human cruiser slid beside 3 alien destroyers. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the alien ships cracked in half, sliced by invisible force. No explosions, no warning, only silence and death. "Impossible," the alien admiral whispered. His translator shivered as his voice broke. "No technology can do this." But humanity had done it. For centuries in exile, they had learned secrets others dared not touch. They had bent the laws of physics. They had built weapons not to conquer, but to survive, to protect their future, to reclaim what was stolen. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, the Galactic Council's proud fleet was reduced to drifting debris, and the humans had not lost a single ship. Across the galaxy, the news spread again, faster, louder, impossible to silence. Miners in the asteroid belts cheered, rebels in the shadows raised their fists. Even children in schools whispered the same word: humans. On Earth itself, the settlers who once called themselves rulers now hid in fear, their markets emptied, their soldiers deserted. They had lived on stolen ground, and now the owners had returned. In the ruins of London, a group of alien traders gathered. They stared up at the human flag rising over the broken towers. Some wanted to flee, but others remained frozen. "What will they do with us?" one asked. "Humans do not forgive," another replied. But none dared resist. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, silence fell. The rulers argued, cursed, threatened, but no decision could be made. Fear clouded every thought. If humanity could crush fleets with no effort, then no world was safe. And yet, beneath the fear, a seed of defiance grew. Some of the empires whispered of a grand alliance. They spoke of combining every fleet, every weapon, every soldier into one force. Perhaps together they could stop the storm rising from Earth, but others shook their heads. "We saw what they can do," they said. "We cannot stop them." Still, the council made its choice. A message was sent across the stars, calling every empire, every army to stand against the reborn humans. War was coming. Back on Earth, the human leaders stood on the steps of a rebuilt monument. The ruins of New York stretched before them, now lit with fires of renewal. A voice carried across the crowds of humans who had come home from exile. "For centuries," the leader said, his tone deep as thunder, "we wandered the dark, homeless, broken, forgotten, but we did not die. We learned, we endured, we built, and now we stand again on the soil of Earth." The crowd roared, fists raised, tears burning in their eyes. Generations of pain had been paid, and now victory was theirs. "No empire will chain us, no ruler will claim us. This is our world, our home, and no one will stand in our way again." Cheers shook the ruins like an earthquake. Ships above answered with beams of light that lit the skies. Humanity was no longer hiding in shadows. They had stepped into the fire, and the galaxy would never forget it. But far away, deep in the stars, fleets gathered, weapons loaded, armies prepared. They came not only with fear, but with desperation. If humans could not be stopped now, then the galaxy itself would belong to them. And so the stage was set. The galaxy would soon learn whether even its greatest forces could stand against the fury of Earth's children, the galactic challenge. The galaxy moved like a beast awakened from sleep. Every empire, every ruler, every warlord who had once mocked the idea of Earth now gathered in fear. The galactic council's halls thundered with voices. Some shouted for peace, others for war, but the decision was already made. Humanity would not be allowed to rise unchecked. Across the stars, fleets were summoned. Entire armadas that had never sailed together were called to one cause. From the cold-blooded reptilian legions to the insectoid swarms with their hive-mind dreadnoughts. From the tall avian strategists to the scaled warlords of the deep systems. Every power came, lured by fear, driven by survival. They returned with weapons that break the laws of nature, one alien ruler hissed. If we do not stop them now, tomorrow they will own the galaxy. So the council declared its verdict. A single message spread across the stars. Humanity is a threat. Humanity must be destroyed. But humanity heard this message, and instead of fear, they laughed. On Earth, the skies were alive with a pie. Captivity. Cities once ruined were rising again with towers of steel and crystal. The ground shook with new factories. The oceans boiled with energy harvesters. Above them, fleets trained, soldiers prepared, and engineers forged weapons that no alien eye had ever seen. Yet amid this storm, the humans remained calm. They had been hardened by centuries of exile. They had faced extinction before. This was nothing new. When the first spy drones of the Galactic Council reached Earth, they found something they had not expected. Humanity was not only preparing for war, they were united. No nation, no division, no border split them. For the first time in history, all humanity stood under one banner, and the galaxy trembled at the sight. Meanwhile, whispers spread across the oppressed worlds. On planets ruled by cruelty, slaves stared at the skies with new hope. In broken colonies where rebellion had long been crushed, the word human became a symbol of strength. If they rise, one miner said as he hid a spark of stolen fire in his hand, then maybe we can rise too. But the rulers did not see hope. They saw doom. The Grand Fleet was assembled near a neutral system, a sight so large that even the stars seemed dimmed. Thousands of ships of every design floated together, waiting for the order to march. No one trusted one another, but all were united by one fear: Earth. From the shadows of the fleet, an alien general whispered, "This is the largest gathering of warships in history. If this does not stop them, nothing will." Back on Earth, human scouts brought the news. The Council had summoned the galaxy itself. Humanity would face not one empire, but all of them, and yet the human leaders did not flinch. In the command hall, the generals stood before a massive star map. Dots of light showed the enemy gathering. Their voices were calm, their eyes sharp. "They think numb. Earth will break us," one said, "but they do not know who we are." Another leaned forward. "For centuries we survived with nothing. For centuries we fought against the void itself. Let them bring their fleets. We will show them what humanity has become." On the training grounds, young soldiers sharpened their resolve. They were not afraid to die. They were not afraid of armies. Every human carried the memory of exile. Every human carried the weight of Earth. One voice rose among them, shouted across the ranks, "We do not fight for conquest. We fight for home. We fight for Earth." We fight for every ancestor who dreamed of this day." The soldiers roared, fists raised to the sky, and so the challenge was set. The Galactic Council's fleet, vast and endless, began its march toward Earth. Whole star systems fell silent as the Armada passed. Their engines lit the dark like a moving sun. Worlds trembled as the storm of warships stretched across the void, but above Earth, the human fleet was waiting, silent and unshaken. They did not run. They did not hide. They stood as if daring the galaxy itself to strike. On the surface, billions watched the skies. Farmers in the newly planted fields, children in rebuilt schools, engineers in roaring factories. All eyes lifted upward. They knew what was coming. They knew what it meant. If humanity fell now, it would fall forever. But deep inside, not one of them believed they would lose. The winds of history had shifted. The galaxy had drawn its line. Humanity had drawn its answer. And soon, the stars themselves would burn in the greatest war the galaxy had ever seen, fire and unity. The galaxy had never seen a fleet this vast. It moved like a storm through the void, thousands upon thousands of warships, stretching from horizon to horizon. Their engines burned brighter than suns. Their weapons glowed with deadly intent. Entire planets fell into silence as the fleet passed, entire systems dim, and as if holding their breath. And at the heart of this armada was a single command: erase humanity, erase Earth. But above Earth, humanity waited. Their fleet did not stretch endlessly. Their numbers were fewer, their ships fewer. Yet what they lacked in size, they carried in power. They were built not on arrogance, but on survival, forged in centuries of exile. When the Armada entered the Sol system, the battle began. Alien admirals raised their arms and gave the order. Weapons fired. Plasma storms, missile clouds, railgun strikes, all unleashed at once. Enough fire to turn Earth into ash 100 times over, but the humans had prepared. A wall of light spread across the system, a shield not of steel, not of energy, but of bent space itself. The attacks hit, bent and vanished, swallowed by the void. Stars seemed to ripple as if reality itself had chosen a side. The alien fleets screamed in panic. "Their defenses cannot be broken!" Then the humans struck back. Their ships moved in silence, faster than thought. They slipped between enemy lines, vanished from sensors, reappeared where no calculation said they could. Their weapons did not roar. They whispered, beams of light so sharp they sliced planets in half. Cannons that turned enemy dreadnoughts into dust without fire or explosion. Just silence. A silence more terrifying than destruction. Whole squadrons disappeared in seconds. Whole fleets were erased. And yet the humans did not laugh. They did not cheer. They fought with calm precision. Their voices steady over comms, their faces hard with focus. For them, this was not glory. This was survival. On Earth's surface, the people watched the skies blaze. Towers shook, oceans trembled. But their eyes did not turn away. They whispered prayers, not of fear, but of strength. For Earth, they said, for our home. But the war was not only in space. It was and hearts. On distant worlds, oppressed species saw the battle unfold on stolen broadcasts. They watched as fleets that had enslaved them for centuries fell like paper before humanity's fire. In the mines, in the prisons, in the broken colonies, voices rose. If humans can stand, then so can we. And rebellions ignited across the stars. Chains snapped, guards fell, flags of empires burned. Humanity's defiance had become a spark, and that spark spread faster than any weapon. The Galactic Council's admirals screamed in despair, their fleets shattered, their soldiers broken. But worse than weapons was the truth they saw. Every strike from humanity carried unity, a strength no empire could copy. "Why do they not fracture?" One alien commander gasped as his fleet crumbled. "Why do they fight as one?" He never heard the answer. His ship was erased in a flash of white. For centuries, the galaxy had mocked Earth as a dead world. But now, they learned what exile had forged. Humanity had become one people, one purpose, one unstoppable force. Hours turned to days. Battles stretched across moons, asteroids, and stations. But the result never changed. Everywhere humanity stood, the galaxy fell. At last, the Council's grand armada broke. Ships fled in chaos. Leaders abandoned their soldiers. Thousands of warships turned tail and ran into the void, the greatest fleet in history, scattered like frightened birds. Above Earth, silence fell. The stars glowed with debris, broken fleets drifted like corpses, and in the center of it all, humanity stood unbroken. On Earth's soil, cheers erupted. Tears streamed down the faces of those who had lived only in exile. The dream of centuries had not only been fulfilled, it had been defended. But even as joy rose, humanity remained steady. Their leaders spoke calmly. Their soldiers stood ready. They knew the war was not finished. They knew enemies still lived. They knew fear still lingered across the stars. Yet in that moment, one truth had been carved into the galaxy. Humanity could not be erased. Humanity could not be broken. Humanity could not be stopped. And from the ashes of rebellion across 1,000 worlds, the oppressed rose, shouting the name of Earth. The galaxy was no longer a prison of empires. It was a storm of change. And at the heart of that storm, humanity stood tall, unafraid, the dawn of humanity's era. The war was over. The Grand Armada of the Galactic Council was no more. Once proud fleets now drifted as wreckage among the stars, shattered and broken. The galaxy had gathered its strength to erase humanity, but instead, it was humanity that erased the illusion of power. Across the void, silence reigned. Silence heavy with fear, silence heavy with awe. Above Earth, the human fleet held formation, their banners glowing like stars, not in arrogance but in triumph. For centuries they had been scattered wanderers, for centuries they had been ghosts. Now they stood as masters of their destiny, unshaken, unbroken. On the surface, Earth itself began to breathe again. The poisoned skies were healing, the oceans shimmered with new life. Forests sprouted from ashes, cities rose from ruins, towers of glass and steel touched the clouds, not as symbols of greed, but as monuments of survival. Children ran through streets where once only rubble lay. Old men and women touched the soil with tears in their eyes. For generations they had dreamed of home, and now their feet stood on it again. The galaxy watched, unable to look away, on worlds where chains had bound slaves for centuries. Rebellion blazed like fire. In mines where workers had labored under cruelty, the overseers fled. In prisons where voices had been silenced, the walls were broken. Everywhere across 1,000 suns, the same cry rose. Earth lives, humanity stands, we are free too. On worlds where chains had bound slaves for centuries, rebellion blazed like fire. In mines where workers had labored under cruelty, the overseers fled. In prisons where voices had been silenced, the walls were broken. Everywhere, across 1,000 suns, the same cry rose. Earth lives, humanity stands. We are free too. The Galactic Council, once the symbol of power, was now broken. Its chambers were silent. Its rulers fled. None dared raise their voice against humanity again, for they knew whatever fleets they built, whatever armies they raised, it would end the same. Humanity had shown the truth. Nothing could stand in their way. But humanity did not conquer. They did not enslave. They did not burn worlds in vengeance. Instead, they offered something the galaxy had long forgotten. Choice. They sent a message across the stars. We do not seek empires. We do not seek thrones. We seek only freedom. for us, and for all who desire it. And that message shook the galaxy more than any weapon, for empires lived on fear, on chains, on silence, but humanity offered hope. Oppressed races, broken peoples, all turned their eyes to Earth, not as subjects but as allies. They saw in humanity the mirror of their own suffering, and in humanity's victory, the promise of their own. Slowly, a new order rose, not of kings or councils, but of unity, a council not of fear, but of voices equal, and at its heart was Earth, no longer forgotten, no longer mocked, but respected. In the rebuilt halls of New York, leaders from across the stars gathered. They stood not above humanity, but beside them. Together, they wrote a new charter, a promise that no world would ever again be silenced, that no people would ever again be erased. And in those halls, the first true galactic alliance was born. Above them, the human fleet still stood ready, not as overlords, but as guardians, a shield full. Are all who sought freedom, a fire for all who sought light. The galaxy whispered a new truth. Once, they had called Earth a scar, a grave, a myth. Now they called it something else. The cradle of defiance, the heart of freedom, the dawn of a new age. On a quiet night, under the skies of Earth, a child looked up at the stars, his voice small, yet filled with wonder. Will they ever come for us again? Beside him, his father smiled, eyes shining with pride. Let them try, he said softly. For now the galaxy knows we are not prey, we are not weak, we are humanity, and nothing can stand in our way. And the stars themselves seemed to bow in silence, as if agreeing the age of humanity had begun.